Good evening and welcome to tonight's Getting Together again, where we'll be looking at different things to do with how we can work moving forward. We've had some great ideas that have come from people, some really good suggestions, and there seems to be quite a bit of interaction on the Getting Together Facebook page, which is great. Particularly in light of the list that was put there. We've got a few people joining us. Caroline, Anita, Juliet. Hi guys, good to have you here. Sarupa, Sonia. I don't really want this to be a repetition of what we do every week. I think it's really important if we can get people joining in with what they feel they'd like to share. So we've now got Karen and Clara. Having people share what they're finding, both the stresses and the benefits that are being discovered as a result of finding ourselves in this situation. And I realise that it's not the same for everyone. Where we are, it's total lockdown, which means that we don't go anywhere. In other places, it's partial. And there's no right or wrong. It works for some in one way and it works for others in another. We've been very fortunate, but I must admit it'd be really nice to go out for dinner somewhere else one night. So if you've got any thoughts or ideas that you want to share of how we can support and assist each other more fully during this time, I'd really like to hear them. And I'm going to now scroll up, which I forgot to do last week. So now we've got Orla, Haresh, Bronwyn, Annam, Glynis, goodness. Sonia says, many families are separated now. So how can we cope with this stressful situation and how can we support those who are going through this? And yes, that's true, because Tony and I are here in New Zealand and our son and his partner are in Australia. Probably not so bad for us because we're all older, but for younger people that are in one country and their parents or their extended family is in another, it can be a problem. We've solved it by doing virtual meals where we've used Zoom. And we've set something up here and they've set something up there and we've sat and we've chatted to each other. It's not the same because you can't give each other a hug, but it's fun. It's a different way of doing things. What are some of the ideas that other people have got? It'd be really nice to know how other people are solving this problem. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Sharon. Because I think while ever there's a connection, it's great. But sometimes we're not quite certain how to make that connection. And one of the things that we found useful was that the four of us actually talked about the stresses of being involved in this situation. We didn't just cheer each other up. Everybody handles things in a different way. And sometimes it's easy to make assumptions. So Srupa said, we've been seeing a lot of people turning a room into a pretend restaurant. That's a good idea. My niece in England was supposed to be going to Spain. Obviously that got cancelled. So they did Costa Brava in their backyard. And my nephew got the barbecue out and they put their holiday clothes on and they sat in the backyard. Fortunately, it was really sunny and hot and they pretended that that's where they were. So it's creative, but it's keeping it fun. Bronwyn says bedtime stories or similar could be fun via Zoom or on Facebook. I can't remember the last time anybody read me a bedtime story, Bronwyn. I think that could be quite interesting. Bedtime stories for adults, not just for kids, could be the way to go. Hi, Pia. Hi, Doris. Glad you could join us too. Any other suggestions? Any other ideas? Aries joined us from Japan. Nice to have you here. we've been looking at how we can make this more interactive from a talking position. We've explored Zoom and it's not working. We've tried a couple of different ways, and because Zoom has now added an extra layer of security because so many people are using it, having everybody come into the Zoom meeting to be able to talk, it means you've got to keep monitoring who's coming in and allowing them through the waiting room, etc., etc., etc. So we're looking at perhaps, instead of that, setting up specific times for specific Zoom calls. If people have particular problems and there's enough of you with those problems, if you can let us know, we can perhaps private messages, then we can look at what we can do and how we can do it that way. If there's an interest, if people are finding that they've got so many resources now that they don't need it, I think that's brilliant. We won't be offended at all. Sharon says she's relieved to hear me talk about the stressors because, as she said, it's not easy for her all the time. I happen to know that Sharon's on her own. Sometimes it's good to be on your own, and sometimes it's good to have somebody with you. And we all deal with stress differently, and it can be stressful. We have a neighbour who lives alone, and she's a very sociable person. So she's found it difficult not to be out and about. She's always busy, out and about, doing things, and she can't do that now. Orla says she connected with her family on Zoom this morning, and they played a game of riddles. So that's another good thing. Camping in the backyard, if possible. Well, one of our news presenters actually did that. She pitched the tent in the backyard on Friday. She put her prom dress on, and she's 50, so that prom dress has been around a few years. But she put her prom dress on, she got her tent all set up in the backyard, and her husband brings her drinks when she rings a little bell. And it sounds like she's been having a whale of a time. So Bronwyn says she could certainly do the adults' bedtime story. Piers suggested a treasure hunt to find inspiring messages, jokes, pictures, funny videos, and then get together and share. So you'd need to have your own group. And if you've got your own group, that's great. There's lots of different things. What's the most challenging thing that you've found you've had to deal with while this has been going on? Because I think it's important to talk about what we felt challenged by. Amanda said that people are shut into many nursing homes and aren't allowed visitors. And perhaps she could sing outside the nursing home, but she's not sure whether that would be allowed. I think a lot of the people in the nursing homes are confused or fearful. What we've had happen here, we've got 2 clusters that have developed around rest homes for the elderly. And unfortunately today we've had the second one from the rest home die. So we've now got 5 deaths in New Zealand. I think for me, it's supporting the staff that are looking after the people. That's the one thing that perhaps we don't pay enough attention to. We're all thinking of ways to look after ourselves and to connect with people. One of the things that's concerned me is the amount of abuse that essential workers are getting. And they don't deserve it. They do a really good job. And not just nurses and doctors, everybody that's got something to do. So what would be a way that we could show our appreciation? And I'm not talking about going on Facebook and leaving messages. I'm talking about something a bit more practical. Anybody got any ideas for how we could show our appreciation to the people that are keeping things going? Haresha said he's just started to learn skip roping. we're talking, Sarupa's saying, can we have a thread that allows people to say, can I have a connection? I think we need to do something along those lines, yes, as I said earlier, where we can, people who have a similar issue, this is not the place to promote one-to-one things, because then it gets into counselling, and that's not what we're here for. The whole idea of this is to support each other, yes, but not to be therapists and counsellors. So it would be good if we could get the group of people who have a similar issue to sit and talk to each other. That was my intent in setting this up. It wasn't for me to do all the talking, but for the group to start to put ideas forward, people coming up with suggestions and ideas to help each other, so that at the end of the session, we can walk away feeling that we've got something that we could take out of it particularly. Bronwyn's talking about charades via Facebook. I think Elaine's hit a point. Her mum and her dad being separated. Her mum's in isolation. So the two of them are separated. And if they've been together a long time, that's stressful. Not being in your own home whilst you're in lockdown, that can be stressful. That's what Bronwyn's talking about. Sharon's still grieving for Oren, who passed away 18 months ago, and so she feels even more alone. Amanda, supporting the staff is an excellent idea. It is, but not just the staff in rest homes. What about the staff in the supermarket? They're copping quite a lot of flack, and I think that's unfair. They put themselves in harm's way so that we can go and get the food that we want when we want it. So I think, it's finding ways to appreciate and be thankful for the people that are doing what needs to be done, not getting cranky because our life's not the way that we want it to be. Anita's talked about how to work from home more effectively. There's a few people who found it really stressful working from home. And I think it's because they've tried to do what they would do if they were in the office, and that never works. I mean, Tony and I have worked from home for years, so you have to do it differently. And that could be a group chat that we have if anybody's struggling. Bronwyn's saying that there's a volunteer page that for people that walk dogs for essential workers. You see, we can't do that here. Because it is total lockdown, but I know in Australia you've got a bit more freedom than we've got. Sending flowers, I don't know if we can do that here. I would, but then the supermarkets have got flowers in them, so if we were sneaky, we could always arrange with the management to do something like that for the staff. That would be a good idea, very different. Doris is talking about clapping hands outside at a specific time, which is great when you live in a city or a built-up area. Where we are, we can't even see our neighbours. So you don't feel that sense of unity. But it is something that a lot of people are doing, like putting teddy bears in windows and rainbow pictures in windows, like we talked about last week. Sonia has come up with a good one. Is there a pay it forward for grocery shopping for medical staff? We used to do pay it forward coffee before all this happened. So if we went to a local cafe, we used to always pay for 3 or 4 cups of coffee when we bought ours, because the St John's ambulance staff used to go there for morning coffee. And a lot of people do that over here. Bronwyn said, how about list areas and ask if anyone needs assistance? Well, yes, places that aren't New Zealand, you can do that. Assistance with transport, food, essentials, walking or feeding pets. And it's a great idea. Offer to be available to the essential services for someone to talk to. The medical staff will have their own systems set up. I don't know whether supermarket staff do. That might be something to explore, and we know someone, she's part of our group, who works in our local supermarket, so I'm going to be having a chat with her and finding out what kind of things might be possible in a place where you can't go out unless you go shopping. But there's got to be a way to be able to do that. Caroline's suggesting that we send pink bubbles of support. Well, we're doing that already, our pink bubble page, and we did it right from the very beginning. We sent pink bubbles, and once you ask to send them, they go permanently. They don't stop. So that's great. There are places to donate money, Sarupa says, to the Food and Treats Fund for Key Workers. As many can't shop, or when they do, there's not enough, so others are helping. Yeah, that's a good one. Over here, we're doing kids' can lunches, because over here, the children who were being provided with lunches every day at school, because they're not at school, aren't getting them. So that's been something that's been set up. I read of a headmaster in the UK who delivers lunch to 80 students every day. He makes them, packs them up, and I think it's a 5-mile walk he goes on, delivering lunches to those students. That is service. That is a real caring individual. I take my hat off to him. Glynis says that her mum's in a home where there have been no visitors for 3 weeks. The staff are amazing, so that they can do things. Yeah, that's great. But we need to look at not just leaving it to the staff. What could we do for the staff? Sharing a smile when we pay and saying thank you, telling them they're doing a great job. Never hurts to compliment people. Yeah, Orla, I agree. I like the flowers idea. I think that's something that perhaps we could certainly look at here in NZ. Marianne's suggested, and this is fine, some people can afford to do this, some people can't, but if you can, give a $20 gift voucher for the essential services at the supermarket. Well, every member of staff is an essential service worker. So it would be how you would go about doing that to make that work. Elaine's been sending cards. We can't, because we can't go to the post office. Anissa's found a group cooking meals for essential services and contributed via a GoFundMe towards their food. That's something. Perhaps we could look for GoFundMe pages and make donations. Writing letters of thanks to the staff and handing to them while shopping. I don't know whether we can do that, Bronwyn. I think it's a great idea, but they're trying to stop us. So, for example, when we go to the supermarket, they don't take money anymore. We have to use plastic, and we're not to limit the touch between the staff and the customers. So I'm not quite certain how that would be done, but we could talk to the supermarket managers and find out. Places where they don't have that same severity of lockdown, I'm sure they'd be very thankful to receive something like that. I think it'd be great. You're all coming up with some really great ideas, and we're going to compile these and add these to the document in the Getting Together Facebook page. Jessica's sending pink bubbles to Sharon. I'm not quite certain what Bronwyn means. Are you allowed, she says, are you allowed to your letterbox, Helen? We're allowed to go out to the letterbox, yes, because we still get mail, but we just can't go to the post office. How about a pay it forward letter in your neighbour's letterbox type thing, like we used to have at school? Well, our neighbours do talk to each other. We keep a 2-metre distance, but we do talk to each other when we go for our daily walk, which we're allowed. Sarupa's saying that the supermarket staff in the UK have been given a very comprehensive support network. Yeah, it's about respecting lockdown. So it's how we communicate without putting pressure on the services that we're communicating with. Juliet says, does anyone know of a site to read books to children online to take a load off for parents? There's a lot of support for children, for parents with children, to help the children. I wonder if there's as much support to help the parents. That could be something that we could look at. Caroline says, tell the staff what you value about their service, about the service that they're offering. I think that's a great idea. Keep it simple. Jessica took 183 photos of angels and light beings yesterday, wanting to make their presence known to us. Okay. So we're going to be, we'll be talking to the supermarkets here, so you might like to find out. It's not just supermarkets, but it's anybody that's doing a job still. And, you know, some places are busier than others, so there's a lot more people involved. We don't have any shops open except the supermarket and the petrol station. When the shops open, when our lockdown eases and other businesses start to open, they're going to need a lot of help and support because some of them have been brought to the brink. So I think then it's going to be a shop local campaign that's going to make the difference. Clara's saying that people in Hong Kong distribute masks to cleaners or to the elderly people who can't afford to buy masks. That's great if you can get hold of masks, Clara. We can't. When the lockdown stops, we can. Orla, people in management positions are also extra stressed. Yeah, they are. Because they're now having to make decisions that affect so many people's lives. I wonder if they would appreciate flowers too, or cards of appreciation. So I guess what Orla's saying is supervisors, people in the managers of rest homes, care facilities that are making decisions about who to roster on or off and how much time off to give people, all of that is really important. And they're in two worlds because they're going there and doing their job and then they're coming home to their family. So they're worried there might be some crossing over there that could cause problems. So I think that's a great idea. I think we've had quite a few really good ideas tonight. Is there anything anybody else would like to suggest? Do you have any ideas? Do you want these Monday meetings to continue, or do you think that anybody got any thoughts about how to do it differently? Because one of the things I'm thinking of is that next week on this Facebook Live, somebody else instead of me will be doing it. So you'll get to see a different face. But have you got any other thoughts or ideas of what we can do here? Because we're coming up with a lot of ideas, but I think it's time to start converting some of those ideas into actions that we can report back to each other. To share the possibilities that have cropped up, the experiments that we've tried, and what kind of results we've got. Here we go. Shop local. Making cloth masks is effective. Clara can send a template for anybody that wants it. As I say here, we can't do anything with that. Jessica's suggested sound healing and meditation. We won't be doing that on here, but I'm sure if people want to join a sound healing and a meditation, Tony does a meditation every Thursday night on Insight Teachings Facebook page. If Jessica is going to do a sound healing, then that's fine. Elaine says the BBC reported about the trauma that's building in the hospitals and everywhere else. So there's going to be a need, there's going to be a lot that's going to be needed as we start to come out of it, but we're in that kind of no man's land. They're already talking about 2 weeks' time, perhaps in New Zealand going to level 3, but nobody knows quite what level 3 means yet. But we're going to need to bridge. Turn the ideas into actions. So, okay. 2 things then, because I like to be a bit bossy sometimes. Next week, when we meet, let's meet to report back on something that we've tried, whether it's been successful or it's not about getting it right. It's about doing something that we feel enhances a sense of connection and cooperation. Sending pink bubbles is great, but I'm talking about actual practical action at this point in time. Giving somebody a smile, saying hello, asking them how they are, giving somebody some flowers for something they've done, or a simple thank you. I think that would be really good if we did that next week. We can all start to share what's happening and how it's gone down. And the second thing is, before we close, what I'd like to do, oh, here we go. This is brilliant. We've got so much thoughts coming backwards and forwards here. What I'd like to do before we close is I would like us to do what we did at the beginning of last week. I'd like us to all take a deep breath, relax our shoulders, close our eyes, and imagine that we're part of a line of people holding hands that stretches all the way around the world, and that the light and the love that each of us radiates when combined surrounds our planet in that healing energy. Lovely. That felt absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And I think it would be nice to thank the security people at the supermarkets who tell you when you can and cannot go in also. So, thank you everybody for joining. Take care. Be well. We'll get these suggestions put together and added, and we'll be back same time next week. Take care. Good night.